Hi everyone, it's Nichol Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be creating a Stitched with Love mini slimline size card using new dies from Simon Says Stamp and even a new background die from Fawn. And yes, I stitched all of those little counted cross stitches on the heart, and I did some back stitching for the little detail flower. So first up, I did die cut my background from Hero Art's PEONY cardstock using the Fawn small mini slimline die, and I used the largest die from the mini slimlines, which is going to leave us with a nice white border all the way around our finished panel here. I always like to have like that little instant mat, if you will, for your design. Then I took the brand new from the To the Moon release stitching heart, and I die cut that directly from my panel. And then I'm kind of planning out my other hearts, and then I'm just going to set those aside for a little bit, and I'm going to pick out some embroidery floss. I've got some DMC embroidery floss right now, and I think I'm going to pick kind of this, I call it, I don't know, kind of a rose color, maybe mauve, and then a pink, and I chose the lighter pink, not the pink that matches the cardstock. It's almost a pinky white, and the red. So those are the three colors I'm going to use. And really quick, let me give you the DMC numbers. Those will be listed in the supplies down below. Red is 347. The pink or mauve is 3731, and then the kind of whitish pink is 23. Now I am going to start on the back of the panel, and I'm going to do something that I wouldn't do if I was stitching on fabric. Maybe if you follow me on Instagram, every once in a while I post some progress or finishes. Not a ton of finishes this year, but I did start back just doing counted cross stitch, but I'll share some of my counted cross stitch projects just every once in a while, usually in my stories, not in my feed. And I'm hoping to do some more of that this year. I actually really love to cross stitch. I don't always cross stitch or stitch on cardstock. This is such a dumb reason probably, but one of the biggest reasons I don't like the stab and poke method. I like the more of the sewing method for cross stitch, which means I'm not going through the front of the fabric and coming back up through the, I'm not even saying this right. You go down through the front and up through the back. I am staying in the front of the fabric because I stitch in hand. I don't use a hoop or anything like that. And I just simply stitch through the front for the most part, and it's a lot quicker. And so when I'm stitching on paper, you have to do the stab and poke because the fabric isn't the cardstock is not pliable like fabric. And so I think that's why I always just kind of put it off. Now I want to mention a couple things that will help in your success. I had to stitch on this. I love this heart. You guys, if you follow me already, you know I love hearts. If you're brand new, welcome everybody who's brand new. Thank you for joining here on my channel. I had to use this stitched heart because I love the design. I love hearts, and I thought it would be really, really cute to stitch. Now, the holes are super tiny. So here are the things I used. I used a very sharp needle. This is a 26 needle from Pat Carson, I believe. Yes, it is. And so it's very, very sharp. Well, it's pretty sharp. It works great for here, but it is sharp. You need it to be sharp to go through these small holes. And I only used one thread of embroidery floss. So a lot of times, like when I stitch on fabric, depending on what size I stitch, I usually use 2 strands. I only used 1 strand here because I just didn't think it would go through the cardstock very well, and it ended up working out fabulous. So just a couple of little things if you want to try something similar. I'm also going to tell you guys, this took up a little bit of time. Yes, this heart is not very big, but it took me probably 2.5 hours. for reference, I started it on camera here, just to kind of show you guys how I'm stitching, you know, up or coming up from the back down through the front. And I'm skipping 2 lines in between the colors. So I did all of the mauve color first, and then I'm going to go and do the whitish pink, and then finally the red. So it's just going to alternate stripes all the way down, which I end up totally loving. I could stitch this again so easily. I think it would be really cute out of felt too. I have an idea for that, so stay tuned. But it took me, I watched Doctor Strange. I've never seen the Doctor Strange. I think it's from 2016. And my son was like, hey mom, let's watch that. So I sat and stitched the majority of this watching Doctor Strange. So it did take a couple hours, but that's how long it would probably take me to stitch on fabric for a design of this size. Just for reference, I want to be completely transparent with you guys that stitching on cardstock is going to take you a bit. And if you're familiar with cross stitching, if you cross stitch, you already know that. If you want to just stitch on paper, you're a card maker only, you have no interest in you know, stitching on fabric, you can still do this. Just know it's going to take a little bit more time. So I'm not too worried about the back on this. Normally I'm a little bit picky and I try to make my backs pretty, but there's no need here. Absolutely no need to make this pretty because it's going to be covered up and it's a card. Now I die cut the other 2 hearts. So what I love is all these hearts are very similar. They're the same size and same style, but these next 2 hearts, they actually die cut the heart shape. So where the stitching heart doesn't, the dotted heart and stitching floral heart do. So the dotted heart I die cut from Hero Arts Cherry cardstock. The stitching floral heart I die cut from white cardstock, and the dotted heart, I would have loved if the holes in it were a little bit smaller. I would have done French knots in it, but the holes are just way too big for anything that I want to do here. I mean, I guess if you used a really thick, I don't even know if a thick strand would work here. But I decided we're going to do something completely different. So I'm actually covering the back of the heart with foam adhesive right now. I'm going to attach these 2 die cut hearts with foam adhesive on the card, and you'll kind of see it come together here. And I use the foam adhesive. It's going to serve a couple of purposes. It's going to, you could maybe, if you had something small enough, you could even inlay some little dots if you wanted to. I'm not going to do that. We're going to decorate this with some little gemstones. I thought little kind of white sparkly gemstones would be perfect here. I already had these out on my desk from working on another project, so I'm simply going to take a little glue, and a fine tip applicator is going to be so handy here. And I'm going to put little bits of glue here, pick up the smallest size gemstone. These are the pearl gemstones from Pretty Pink Posh, and I'm going to just pop these in place. And I'm going to continue to do this all over the heart. It is a lot of gemstones, but this card is the go all out kind of card because the stitching did take a bit. So I told you how long the stitching took for the stitching heart. I am going to back stitch the other heart on this design, and I would say it probably took me an hour. I had a lot of distractions, so it was really hard for me to keep track of that one. So it also was a little bit of work. Now, that being said, if you don't want to stitch on your paper, I totally get it. But keep in mind, you do not have to at all. These dies, pardon me, look amazing as is. You do not have to stitch them. In fact, when I stitched them, you may have noticed I had to take my needle and punch a hole through. I'm using a tiny needle, guys, and it isn't die cutting it all the way through. It's more of a decorative type thing. You can stitch it if you want to, but it also looks really awesome if you just want to use it as a decorative element on your card. So you could totally put that stitching floral heart on your design as is, and it would be totally cool. Same goes for the stitching heart. I think the stitching heart would be really neat just as a background element without any stitching at all. Yes, the stitching definitely adds that extra, you know, extra bonus points or something. I don't know, but you don't have to feel like you have to stitch if you pick these up. I think these are fabulous heart dies, and I really, really love all three of these. Some of my very favorites from the To the Moon release. So here, and I don't know if my camera is going to get it in focus. I'm so sorry, because I'm having to pull it up. Okay, I'm back stitching. It's simply a simple back stitch. So I'm coming up from the back and down through the front, and I am just going to back stitch all of the flowers. What I did was I back stitched the flowers with the red embroidery floss. I back stitched the leaves with the mauve colored embroidery floss, and then the little swoops and swirls I did with the pinky white color, and I also did a little teeny tiny French knot in the center of the flowers, which I am going to slow the video down. I actually have it real time right now for a little bit of the stitching. I'm going to speed it back up and then I slow it down when I do that. But my camera was having a terrible time focusing this. It was really, it was a struggle to get this in focus. I don't know why. Probably because how my camera is positioned, I stand to craft, but I don't really enjoy standing to stitch. So that was a little bit of a struggle. If I do another stitching video, I will try to figure out something else. So I do apologize that I know it's out of focus a lot. So here I'm just going to kind of show that to you. Maybe if I hold my hand underneath it. Maybe I got better as the time goes on. Who knows? I do think this is a little bit better. So simply stitching all of those petals. There's no super rhyme or reason. I tried to kind of keep them consistent. There's probably lots of ways you could do this. This is just how I picked to do it. I do think this would be really cute if you did some green leaves. Green on this card was really just throw the whole thing off, so I chose not to, but I think you could use all kinds of different colors for this. I would love to see the same design like in blues. Wouldn't that be so pretty? If you did blues, green leaves would be super, super cute. Anyway, and honestly, other than my sentiments, this card could be for a lot of occasions. Yes, it's definitely got that Valentine's-y love type feel to it, but I think with the right sentiment, it could be a miss you, you know, thinking of you, hello, anniversary, all kinds of things. So hopefully you can kind of see how it's coming along. Actually, I'm doing a tad bit better of getting this in focus. Yay. And then just going to stitch these little leaves. And I'm stitching part of the image here on camera, and then I will stitch the rest off camera. And then I'll come back and stitch the next thing. So I really did it where I stitched all of one color, all of the next color, and then all of the third color. And I did that for both hearts that I stitched. Definitely, this is probably one of the longest card making projects, you guys, that I've ever done that hasn't involved tons and tons of coloring and parts and pieces. Like, I know there's been some interactive cards that I've done in the past that were really detail intensive and had lots of parts and pieces and moving elements. And yes, those cards do take a little bit of time, but on the norm, my cards do not take this much time. I really had to spread this card out and the different steps in it over a couple of days. Just because, like I said, I stitched all of that one heart one evening while I watched a movie with my son. And then I stitched this heart like during the afternoon, and then I came back and I kind of put it all together the next day. Okay, let me figure out my little French knot and then I'll get in camera. So I'm going to start my thread and I'm going to do the little stitched, I call them like little swirls, swoops and swirls around the rest of the design. That's what I'm doing right now. And then, as always, Odin is just snoring in the background. I cannot believe that dog. He was playing with a squeaky toy, so maybe I should be glad that it's snoring and not squeaking. Once I have the little swirl stitched, I'm going to come up through the center of my flower. So with the flower petals, it left one little stitching hole in the center, and I'm going to come up through that, and I'm going to wrap the embroidery floss around the tip of my needle. And I actually did it a couple times. Normally with a French knot, I only do once, but I am going to, and I know I'm probably completely out of camera, and I knew I did it at the time. Oh, and maybe I'm not there yet. But we're going to wrap the thread around the needle a couple times and go back down through the same hole. And that's what creates a French knot. If you already know all of this, you know, ignore all of that. I know some of you might be new to it, and I had to bring it close to me because I know what happened right here. I messed up something, and so I'm fixing it. Okay, and then I'm sure my thread knotted. And I also think I came up in the wrong place. All right, so I'm just going to poke a little hole in the center of my flower to make it easy. Oh, I'm also stitching all the little swirls. Actually, I think I'm going to do all the little swirls next here first. These were kind of not hard to stitch, but for such a tiny thing, a little time consuming. And the back of this heart, you guys, I am embarrassed. It is not pretty at all. But again, we're going to be attaching it with some foam adhesive. That foam adhesive will hold everything down. I am not going to worry about it. I would love to know in the comments how many of you either cross-stitch, have cross-stitched. I always love asking about other crafts and hobbies. I know we talked about it in a live a while back, but it's always interesting to me how many of us have multiple crafty passions and hobbies. For me, you guys already know the card making or gift tags, gift bags, all of that good stuff here on this channel. I also have a planning YouTube channel. There is a link down below. So that's like, again, that's paper and stickers, and I really, really love it. So that's a crafty passion. I also quilt and then cross stitch. So those are my 4 main ones. I will delve into some other things here and there. With the stitching, I kind of tie in like felt ornaments into that as well, even though it's not cross stitch, just because it is stitching, but I do love that. I love working with felt and all of that good stuff. So definitely drop me a note down in the comments. Okay, here I'm wrapping the embroidery floss around my needle. And like I said, I did do it a couple times. Nicole, move that up in the frame. Sorry, you guys. I tried to zoom in so you could see, and then I still pulled it so close to me. It was hard for me to see it. And I totally messed it up. So I'm just going to pull that one back down through, and it forms that little knot. Okay, let's do another one. Maybe. Or maybe that's the only one I did. Here, I'm wrapping it around a couple times. Nope. And then we're going to simply push that back through the same hole. And it's going to form this great little knot. Just go nice and slow. Don't pull too hard. Perfect. Okay, yes, I did have one in frame a little bit better. That's always good to know. So then I'm just going to speed up stitching the rest of these little swoops and swirls, and it's time to put it all together. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some foam adhesive on the back of this heart, and this one's going to go over here on the right side of the design. Right now I'm cleaning up some of the threads that may be sticking out, and we're going to pop it up with foam adhesive, add a little stamped sentiment, add a die cut sentiment, and then finish with some more heart accents, because why not? We are heart crazy. So here, we're just going to peel off the foam adhesive. The foam adhesive is great because it really does secure the back of those stitches, and I don't have to worry about them coming loose. And I love a heart card with like staggered hearts like this. Now I've left that little area down there on the bottom of the card. That naturally is the spot where I felt like my sentiments would fit really well. We are going to use the Trio of Love Simon Says stamp dies. This is also from the To the Moon release. There's Swack, Moi, and XOXO. We're going to use XOXO. And the awesome thing about these word dies, you guys, are they are small. They're not super huge, so I think they work really nice if you don't have a ton of room to work with. I want the hearts to be the star of the show here, but I also want my sentiment to stand out, but I don't want it to overtake the whole design. This is going to fit the bill perfectly. We're going to die cut XOXO 3 times from the Hero Arts Cherry cardstock. If you guys don't know already, cherry cardstock is my favorite. So is Peony, which is the pink color I used here. These are 2 of my very, very favorite Hero Arts cardstocks, or cardstock of any color. I love these 2. They're 2 that I find myself reaching for over and over again. And then we're going to take a little phrase from another new To the Moon release product. This is the Love Garden Greetings stamp die set. We're only using the stamps today, and I'm going to use the phrase Enjoy Your Day. We're going to stamp that with some Guava ink. I really contemplated what ink to use, but Guava to me really matched kind of the mauve-ish color that is one of the embroidery floss, and I wanted it to kind of go together but not be the exact same color. I also did not want to introduce red into this, and I didn't want to heat emboss. So Guava it is. Here I'm just simply die cutting that XOXO. I didn't even cut them apart. I just simply placed it along the edge of my cardstock scrap and die cut it 3 times. So let's glue those one on top of each other. I'm using a fine tip glue applicator to do that. Just by adding 3 of these, it gives it a little bit more of a substantial look on the card, especially with 2 of the hearts already popped up. I think that just helps make the XOXO a little more prominent. I think even a little Happy Valentine's Day underneath this would be really cute. I didn't think of that. I think that would have been really, really cute though. And I know exactly which, there's a stamp set from Simon Says Stamp that I would have used for that. So here I'm putting Enjoy Your Day down. We're going to stamp it with Guava ink. I tried like 2 other different inks, luckily on a scrap piece of paper first, trying to find just the right color, even though I knew that in my head the whole time that I wanted to use Guava. I should have just gone with Guava to begin with. I don't know why I was trying to make it hard. I do very much recommend using a stamp positioner tool here. I already added the hearts with foam adhesive, which does make it a little bit more tricky. It's definitely doable, but just make sure your cardstock is in the MISTI, it's nested in a corner, you've got your magnet or 2 magnets holding your paper down, and then just stamp it once or twice. I did twice, and then Odin is really snoring, you guys. I'm so sorry, it's so distracting. And then I'm going to just add some glue to the XOXO. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. I love it just like this, but of course, you guys know me. I went a little heart crazy and I added all kinds of these Trinity and Lucy's Little Things hearts. I'm going to adhere this to a mini slimline card base. Mine was a little off, so I did have to trim up that right side a little bit, and that is it. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this Stitched with Love card featuring brand new stamps and dies from the Simon Says Stamp To the Moon release. The supplies used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my Patreon members. If you would like to become a member of Patreon, please click the link down below in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Here is another video featuring Simon Says stamp product that you might be interested in. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we will see you next time. Bye!